Hey, Eagle fans! Your Statesboro Walmart is your one-stop shop for all your Georgia Southern football and game day needs. Pick up your GSU sports gear here. We have t-shirts, hats, tote bags, koozies, stadium bleacher seats, car spirit flags, wall pennants, beads, and more right here at the best prices in town. Also, don't forget we can handle all of your tailgating needs with our great food trays, baked goods, and fresh, high-quality meat, seafood, and chicken.
Walmart. Save money. Live better. Walmart.
On this week's show, the Georgia Southern Eagles, coming off a bye week, get ready for their first ever matchup with the Georgia State Panthers on the football field. That game, of course, in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. We'll have interviews with Georgia Southern players and coaches, as well as Georgia State, as we welcome you inside the Eagles' nest. And welcome inside the Eagles' Nest. I'm your host, Josh Aubrey, being joined as always by Matt Yogus, the sports editor and Georgia Southern beat writer for the Statesboro Herald. And Matt, a bye week, much needed for Georgia Southern, and from all the talks from the players and coaches, seemed like it came at a perfect time. This week they get back to action on the road in Atlanta in the Georgia Dome against Georgia State. First of all, do you feel like this time the break came at the right time? Sometimes you want to go on a roll, you want to continue. Sometimes you want that break to be at this point. Your thoughts on it?
Well, the Eagles were definitely on a roll, 4-game winning streak, but 7 games in a row is a lot for anybody. Ask Bullock Academy. We've been watching them go through it too. But they had trips to New Mexico, Raleigh, Mobile. Those are longer road trips than Georgia Southern's used to. So yeah, they needed a break. I think the fans needed a break. Everybody was kind of exhausted after that stretch. But 5-2 is a great place to be. Georgia Southern gets the rest. And they spent 2 weeks hearing about Georgia State, and the build-up to this game has been, we thought it would be kind of a fun little rivalry, but it's kind of taken on a life of its own.
And I guess that's the question right now that a lot of people are talking. Is it a rivalry? They've never played football before. They've played a few other sports before, but this will be the first time they've met on the gridiron. Of course, Georgia State, being a fairly new program, did pretty well in their first year, but since then, things have been pretty tough for them as they've moved up and into the Sun Belt. Your thoughts on the Georgia Southern-Georgia State rivalry?
Well, hashtag Southern not State and hashtag State not Southern are all over the place. The ADs are getting involved. Georgia State's throwing free stuff out to their students just to get them to come to the game so Georgia Southern doesn't outnumber them in the Georgia Dome. Like it or not, it's a rivalry. It's Georgia State's obviously not going to be favored in the game. Georgia Southern a 16.5-point favorite, I think. Last time we saw, obviously, Georgia Southern 4-0 in the Sun Belt. Georgia State in its second year hasn't won a Sun Belt game. But, the fan bases have done everything they can to turn this thing into a heated ball game, even though these teams don't know each other.
All right, well, as for the game on the field, you mentioned it, Georgia Southern's 4-0. Georgia State has yet to win a Sun Belt game, but they have been pretty competitive for the most part. They took Louisiana Lafayette down to the wire, were leading in the fourth quarter. This past week, they were down to the wire and took South Alabama there late in the game before they finally lost that game.
They seem like a pretty talented team that just hasn't figured out how to win yet. Louisiana Lafayette, you mentioned that one, a close game. That team just beat Arkansas State, who most people thought were going to go undefeated in the conference. They won on a Tuesday night over them. Georgia State, like you said, we're within a field goal 3 times this year. They've been within a field goal of winning a Sun Belt game. So Georgia Southern, I think they know that. Willie Fritz has been able to get the team, as up as they needed to get for all the ball games so far this year. I don't think they're going to be overlooking Georgia State, and that's smart because, a 12th passer in the country in passing yards and Nick Arbuckle. This is not a bad football team, just a team that can't win.
That's right, and they've been having some trouble stopping the run. Of course, Georgia Southern's doing quite well at that. We had a chance to talk with coaches and players about the upcoming game with Georgia State, whether it's a rivalry or not. Most of the guys are pretty fired up about playing.
We had a long grind. It's our first really week off since before preseason camp. So it felt good. We spent last week working on things that technique-wise that we don't have time to work on that we've been missing. And it feels good to go back up to Atlanta and play Georgia State. I know some people on the team, and they've been talking, and they've been hyped up and ready to go. And I know everybody down here is ready to be at the game. So we're going to have a good support up there in Atlanta.
Is it a rivalry? You feel like it is?
I feel like there's so much smack talk between the schools that it's almost going to become a rivalry. I feel like they're going to have their biggest crowd that they've had this whole year. We're going to have a big crowd up there, and it's going to be a rivalry environment. So we got to come out there playing our best game.
Because, we had a lot of beat-up bodies, so, we took that week to everybody to get healthy, got a lot of treatments and watched a lot more film on Georgia State to get prepared for this week.
Do you feel like there's a rivalry between you two guys as you guys get ready to go up to Atlanta?
I really want to say it's a rivalry. You just know that everybody's big on the whole ordeal with who's real GSU. But we're not really worried about that hype. We're just going to play football. We're just ready to play. We got our minds set on playing Georgia State. We've been preparing for a long time. We're really confident about this game. We can't wait to play in the Georgia Dome.
We definitely needed a week to get our minds right and just get away from the grind, from that 6-7 game grind, and just really wind down and focus on the next week. And having 2 weeks for this game is really going to be really good for our team. I mean, it's definitely a big game, hometown team to a lot of guys here on the team, and just going back home and playing the atmosphere a lot of people played in before, the Georgia Dome, and playing a team in state is definitely a big game, and it's one we're looking forward to this week.
Do you look at it as a rivalry game?
Well, there needs to be some history to be a rivalry game, but I think there's a little bit of history, from other sports, but obviously we haven't played them in football yet, but I do think it's going to be a rivalry in the near distant future.
Well, they've got a good team. One of the things I've been telling our guys is they've, they played a bunch of teams really close, been a little bit snake bit this year. They had an opportunity to defeat South Alabama, had an opportunity against Lafayette, played Air Force awful close early in the year. So they've are playing at a really high level. We're going to have to come out, and like I say every week, we got to bring our A game. This is another Division I opponent.
Do you feel like there's a rivalry between Georgia State and Georgia Southern?
Probably more so with our fans right now than our teams. But it's good to play an in-state team. Sun Belt has got a pretty wide geography as far as stretching from the south all the way out to the northwest and out to the west, and it's good to have teams that are in close proximity. I think for both travel and also for our fans.
Very excited this week to have the privilege to play a team from the south part of Georgia, and our kids are excited, and they are dialed in, and we need a great week of preparation to have a chance to play with them. They're an outstanding football team, and we are looking forward to Saturday. Well, there's always the games that end up being rivalries, and anytime you're involved in something like that, there's always a little extra bounce in your stride, pep in your step, and it's just natural. And it's going to develop. And rivalries are things that are established over years, over history, and so this is the start of one because it's a natural. We're in the same conference, we're in the same state, and our kids approach it. We try to approach every game, as is important, but obviously they'll probably know guys on that team, and so there's always going to be a little extra incentive. I'm sure it's the same way on that side, and I think it ends up being more for the fans. You could look at for our players, you could look at South Alabama, and you could look at Louisiana Lafayette, and think that you've got natural rivalries there too. But our guys will look at it as a rivalry, and all the fans will, and hopefully in years to come they'll be talking about how great a rivalry it is, kind of like Georgia Tech, Alabama Auburn, all the Louisiana Lafayette, Louisiana Monroe. It's built in because of where we're located and where they're located. It's a totally different offense than Air Force, and their offense is dynamic. The quarterback, I know numbers. Number 4, he can go. I mean, he is an excellent football player, and they've got some excellent skill position guys. It's a very difficult scheme, and they utilize it really well. I mean, no one's really stopped them. You're not going to stop them. You got to try to slow them down.
Well, we have to be able to run because you have to be able to keep their defense honest. You got to be able to keep their linebackers from getting into their drops and their defensive line from pinning their backs and coming up on the pass rush. So we're going to keep running the ball, keep pounding it away, and that's always going to be a big part of our game plan is being physical and being able to establish the run. Obviously, what we did wasn't enough. 27 points wasn't enough this past game. So we'll hopefully continue to get back to what we did in the first few games of the season, get into the 30s and get into the 40s, and continue to take pressure off our defense. We're not comfortable with losing. There's no feeling of being comfortable, being content with being 3 points away from a win or a tie. We want to win, and even no matter if we lose by 40 or lose by a point, we're not going to be okay with that, and we'll keep fighting until we win.
Final 2014 closeout at Franklin Toyota. All remaining 2014 Toyotas are closeout price.
Get $5,000 off or 0 APR for 72 months on new Camrys.
Find it at Franklin Toyota in Statesboro and franklintoyota.com.
With more than 100 years of experience under one roof, Complete Car Care on 207 Northside Drive can do it all for your car or truck, gas or diesel, even hybrids, motors, tune-ups, front end, air conditioning, transmissions, electrical. Complete Car Care does it all. When others say no, Complete Car Care says yes. Come see what Michael and his team can do for you at Complete Car Care, 207 Northside Drive.
Well, Matt, going to put you on the spot. Your thoughts on the game as far as the points and what you think the score might be in this game. As you mentioned, Georgia Southern, by Vegas odds, 16.5 point favorites.
Yeah, they've been balancing out, I guess, those early big covers over the point spread. But, I see this game going one of two ways. 16.5 points sounds about right to me, especially if Georgia Southern jumps on top early, because Georgia State, they were 0-12 last season. They're 1-6 this year, the only win over Abilene Christian, a late field goal in that one. So that you get into that kind of situation, you get down early, you get the here we go again feeling, and the other team's going to stomp you. But they've been in ball games early. That's what's kept them in throughout the ball game. So if Georgia Southern jumps ahead, roll to an easy victory. But this thing could be a dogfight. I think Georgia Southern does get up early, and I think they cruise to that 16.5, 17, 18.
I'm with you on that. I think you can tell by halftime how this game is going to be. If Georgia State's hanging around at halftime, I think it's going to go down to the wire. And if Georgia Southern's blowing them out, I think it's probably going to continue that way throughout the rest of the second half. Well, that'll wrap it up. For Matt Yogus, I'm Josh Aubrey. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week.